I'm super excited to be talking about one of my absolutely favorite communication topics, which is building community and culture within organizations. And we have a great group of people who are going to be sharing their experiences at their organizations and the difference that it's really made for them. So that includes Brian Lott, who's a CCO of Mubadala Investment Company, Michael Merck, Director of Communications for Steelcase, Varsha Chennai, who's the SVP of Group Communications for Mahindra, and Varsha wasn't able to come here today, so she's actually prepared a video, which we will see. And then Paul Edwards, who is the Group General Manager for Corporate Communications at ANZ Banking Group. So after each of these presentations, then everyone's going to have an opportunity at the table, at your table, and you might want to get with a table that has more than 2 people, to talk about how you're building community within your organizations, and then we'll have a chance to talk about it with all the presenters. But first, I want to share just a short overview of this topic in a video. Creating community at work is about building people's sense of belonging to something greater than themselves. We are social animals who function most effectively within a social system. And community is the glue that binds us together for the greater good. Community at work means caring about our jobs, our colleagues, and our place in the world, and in turn being inspired by it. Most companies we admire have a strong sense of community. This concept of community at work in an extreme form can be traced back to the 1800s, where several organizations created company towns to provide every type of service for their employees. Housing, schools, stores, hospitals, all within walking distance to work. And in the second half of the 20th century, work evolved rapidly with technology. In the 21st century, technology and our workspaces continue to evolve. A lot has changed in the workplace over the past 40 years. There's more autonomy for employees, but no guarantee of work. There's more collaboration and less hierarchy. Technology is growing exponentially and enabling new modes of work and business. We have more data and information than we know what to do with, and change is constant and accelerating. Today, the disparity between the pace of change for technology and the pace of change for the workforce and the physical places we work is significant, compounding the complexity of managing businesses and building communities. What hasn't changed are our basic human needs. These start with the fundamentals to keep us alive, then safety, stability, and health. After that, we need connection, family, and friendship. Next is achievement and respect. And ultimately, we crave purpose and meaning and a desire to reach our highest potential. The most successful companies know how to get to the top of this hierarchy. So what does the future hold? Some organizations are going back to the concept of the company town. Facebook just announced it's building a village that will include housing, a grocery store, and a hotel. Amazon just announced it's planning to open a second headquarters that will include housing for 50,000 employees. These physical communities will be supplemented with virtual communities, given the realities of today's global workforce. But more change is coming faster than we can imagine. The rise of robots and artificial intelligence. And since Star Trek has been predicting the future since 1966, how about the changes we haven't conceived of yet? And the far-out changes that are already underway? Whatever the future holds, it will serve us all well to remember what Captain Jean-Luc Picard said. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
Okay, good afternoon, or marhaba sah, as we would say in Abu Dhabi. How many people have been to Abu Dhabi? Okay, if you, Roger and Bjorn Edlund were there earlier this year, we had a great page event with the Middle East PR Association. It's full of incredible rising stars, one of which is here, Sarah Sharuki, who is the head of communications at the Emirates Defense Industries Company. And you're going to hear more about this place in the years to come. It's quite an extraordinary country, and one that really knows a lot about community, largely because of this man. Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan was from a tribe, the Bani Yas tribe, that historically has been located in that region. In 1971, he did the extraordinary thing of turning 7 distinct emirates into a nation that's younger than me, and created really through this sense of community a country that had a very difficult history. Abu Dhabi in particular was reliant on one very precious commodity early in the last century, which was pearls, and became prosperous through the pearl industry until that industry collapsed, thanks to cultured pearls, and Abu Dhabi fell back into a much less prosperous economic state. So his vision, which still guides the country and the community and our company, is as true today as it was when he became president in 1971, and that is, with the discovery of oil and gas, almost 10% of the world's hydrocarbons are located in the emirate, that was not something he was ever going to take for granted to ensure the security of his people. And so what the country has been on is really an extraordinary journey to diversify its economy beyond oil and gas, beyond that single commodity. And that really tells the story of Mubadala. Mubadala Investment Company is about 15 years old. We invest across 13 different sectors, from significant investments in renewable energy, to healthcare, to aerospace, to artificial intelligence, and others, with incredible partners like GE and IBM and HP and Apple and AMD, and I could go on. Why that's foundational to Mubadala is that partnership is in our DNA because it's in the country's DNA. It's a small country, about 10 million people, and you can't survive in that neighborhood without strong alliances. And what Mubadala has done as a deliberate part of its business model is to create these strong partnerships all over the world, and to do so with a very specific business reason, which is that collaboration works extremely well. There's something in Arabic culture called the majlis. Majlis is typically a room in a house or in a leader's home where the citizens of that community come together and they talk to the leader and they share their stories and their challenges. Sometimes it's a street repair, sometimes it's a son or daughter who wants to go to college. But it forces this sort of dialogue and collaboration and cooperation. And I think it's a great kind of metaphor for how the country works, and it works extremely well. And it helped us shape our values as a company around things like partnership and integrity and accountability and certainly inspiration. And the way we've built community at Mubadala is through recognition. We want, in a company that is roughly 2/3 made up of Emirati citizens and the rest are expats, to showcase really global best practices and recognize people based on the demonstration of their values and why those values are important and successful. And we've done that about 5 years, and I think it's fair to say that our employee satisfaction is up, our performance is up, and people look forward to that opportunity to nominate and celebrate a colleague. We try, in a very multicultural environment, over 30 or so different cultures at Mubadala, to deepen understanding of each individual's life experience and work experience. So we do that through what we call untold stories, which gets beyond people's functional responsibility and into maybe what they do for volunteer work. Some of our employees have founded schools in places like India. Others, on the weekends, have a charity they work with, they care for the disabled, et cetera. And that has helped deepen both employee loyalty and that sense of community. We've had an exciting year. This is our new corporate logo. We had a long and interesting discussion about what to do with this logo. The actual identity is made up of Arabic letters that spell or represent Mubadala. And as you can see, part of that identity is very global in nature and integrated. This was done by a local Emirati artist. So a bit of a, and that was our CEO who wanted that. He didn't want a big branding agency. Actually, we brought one in to begin with, and they didn't last. He wanted something much more unique. And in line with that, let's be different, let's be contemporary, we went to him a few weeks ago with this sense of how do we build a community around our brand. The traditional or conventional way might be to do it through paid advertising, either on TV or print. But we really thought that the right answer was to do it through the 68,000 employees of the Mubadala Group. We just went through a very large merger with the International Petroleum Investment Company, which is another big Abu Dhabi institution. We're now unified, total asset base of about $125 billion. And we're now at this last phase, which is the global brand campaign. So we have our official launch this week, basically. We have started what we think will be a very viable exchange, global exchange. The word Mubadala means exchange in Arabic. So we're going to have people from Abu Dhabi travel all around the world on kind of a journey of 80 days, starting December 1st, to tell the Mubadala story to our partner companies and these 68,000 employees with really two goals in mind. One is so that they really understand who we are and why we're in business, and we understand their story. And the other residual benefit is that we have a lot of companies, Nova Chemicals in Calgary, Mubadala Petroleum in Thailand, Minesa in Colombia, Global Foundries in Singapore, and they don't know each other. So we want to deepen the connection and that sense of purpose between them as well as between us. So I think that'll be an exciting opportunity for us to do two things. Stories that will come out of that we're going to share with each other, and we're going to create a ton of content that will help us tell the brand externally, but really through those employees. We want to, 68,000 is not a small number of employees, so what we really want to do is inspire them, engage them, and try to link it back to this whole larger purpose of really building a company that's meant to protect and sustain not just the UAE economy, but the global economy. Mubadala is one of the biggest investors in the US. We've got over 13,000 employees in New York State in our semiconductor business and partnerships with Cleveland Clinic and others. So it's really a global investment platform that we're proud of, and it'll be very interesting to see how that community is built among these employees and how that journey goes. So we'll talk a little bit more, but thank you. I'd like to introduce Michael, who's going to talk to you about Steelcase.
Thank you, Brian. Hello, everybody. This is more a story about a project in the making, an evolution. So bear with me, it's not completed yet. So many see in Steelcase the largest office furniture manufacturer in the world, which is accurate. But we see us more as a placemaker, because we believe great things happen when people come together in a place curated around a great purpose. That provides the conditions to unlock human promise for people at work. That's what's driving us. So we know from our campus customer experience in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that our win rate goes up when customers see how we work and innovate in our locations, versus looking at dead office furniture in a showroom. That's not helping. So customers really love seeing us how we innovate, experiment, and share our ideas. So you get the idea. We really depend on a vital community at work because they're really delivering our story. And to be successful also in Europe, we needed something like we have here in Grand Rapids. And you're going to see some pictures from Grand Rapids circling behind me while I change the slides. Yep. So in 2015, we decided to create a learning and innovation center in Munich, Germany, which would require to move innovation forces from Rosenheim, Germany and Strasbourg, France, and replace those who would choose not to come with us, unfortunately. So the idea was to create a hub where we can learn, innovate, and lead, and could become a kind of a prototype for our future culture and our community around the world. So at the same time, to set up this project, our CEO announced a few ideas that were important for this community. First of all, we said there shouldn't be one place having more power than any other in our company. We look at it more as a node in a network, nodes in a network. So that was the first one, and as a sign of proof, we said our global headquarters on our campus in Grand Rapids is now a global business center, as the same as the one in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, the one in Monterrey, Mexico, or the one in Cluj, Romania. No place has more power. Right at the same time, we said Munich needs to have some product development responsibilities. So product decisions are not only made in Grand Rapids, there's also a role for Munich right away. And the ultimate sign was, he said, I'm moving my leadership community right out of that old building in the middle of our Learning and Innovation Center and Steelcase University in Grand Rapids to show that leadership has to be at the forefront of innovation. So that was really important. That was a big signal for the Grand Rapids community. We are, of course, we have a dominant American culture, but we want to be global, so you need to show a sign that you're moving. And also a sign for the global community, okay, the guys in Grand Rapids take it serious. So the perfect setup for this project in Munich. But when you start a new community in a place where nobody knows you and where nobody of your folks have never been, that comes with some challenges. Out of a sudden, you have 110 employees in Rosenheim that have a 1-hour commute. Yeah? And the 50 people in Strasbourg, only 7 opted to come with us, which is a big knowledge loss. And that required us to hire more people than we actually thought. So 110 people, at the moment 50% of the current workforce, has started at this place and actually had their trainings on sites with people that were about to leave the company. That was kind of a challenge. So we said, what are we doing about that? But the other element was leadership. So you need strong leadership. 50% of the leaders are not on site. Direct managers. They are somewhere around the world in a different time zone. That means presence disparity for a lot of people, like the team of ones. And the other element that adds a little bit of a stress is there's not one single leader running this place. Leadership in this place is coming together and is governing that place. Business tensions are the other element that are a challenge because our business in EMEA in Europe is not profitable at the moment. And since we count on this win rate going up, this is a key element that contributes to that. And the hidden challenge, of course, is the moment you make a decision for one location in Europe, the others think they've lost. So that was something we had to overcome too. So the great news is Steelcase has a process how to solve that. When we help our customers when it comes to making their place work, taking their strategy, brand, and culture objectives into considerations. So besides the needs for the customer experience, the principles or the needs to innovate or to learn, we looked also at the requirements for the employee experience. That was absolutely critical when it comes to the desired culture and the workplace performance. Because when you engage your workforce in that, you have a much more engaged and educated workforce because they've been part of the making of this location. They were part of translating the business objectives into this community, into a work experience and culture to help them really to accomplish their community objectives. Learn, lead, and innovate. As a result, we have together defined the employee experience principles and the future culture principles. So any activity that is happening in that location is now going back to those principles. And we also decided that the communication team plays a bigger role here, yeah, to make sure that we activate those. Because communication matters, and we didn't want to leave this only to HR. We said we partner, we've created a position about employee experience to make sure that we really activate this. So how do you do that? It was a staggered move-in approach over 3 waves, and in the beginning the conditions were far from ideal. But we knew we needed to celebrate those little moments to weld this community together. Because right from the beginning, when the moment was open, our sales team said, we can bring customers. Yes, of course, bring customers that are in the same situation where we are. We wanted our employees to work with customers to show how it is. And it wasn't that we wanted to show everything is great, we showed what's not working. That's what those customers wanted to see. So in the spirit of experimentation, we did that. We also know that great ideas happen when you bring people together. So we wanted to make sure that people come together. It's 3 buildings that are stuck together, so we wanted to bring them out of their locations. We created a series of events like language breakfasts or Curious Minds stand-up sharing moments that we broadcast and shared within the community there. And my team actually had a big role into this. So that was important, to use space to bring people together. Don't hide in your place, come together, exchange ideas. Another element that is really helping is information persistence. So information persistence means you create improper interaction with information in space that you wouldn't normally look up. So we've created some displays that tell employees in the location what's going on, who's in the building, and what are those customers looking for, that you prepare them for that. There's a Munich community board and also an EMEA community board that you see in the different places. On top of that, we've created team displays where teams get a chance, when you wander around, to ask questions, to show their new team member, to express themselves in the space, in areas where they can exchange. And something that we've done in 2012, when we created our major campus project in Grand Rapids, we've created, you don't use that word today that much, global wall, a global media wall. That is a window in the Steelcase world. When you're in front of that wall, that media wall, you think you see our community live. You see what's going on around the world. My team is curating that. We have one of those media walls in every major location where you meet people, where you connect, where you eat. So when you have somebody applying for a position and the person stands in front of it, you don't have to say, we're a global company, you really see that. And people are really proud when they make it to that wall. So that's really a very important element. So I didn't want to put out here the 6 things to be successful in an active community. I just wanted to show what we did for us. Because what we do for us, who we are, is what we do. We do that also for our customers. And when I look what we've done in Munich, I mean, this was wave 3 in July. Our CEO is somewhere hidden in there with this on the right. We really feel something has changed. There's a complete different spirit in that community compared to Grand Rapids. It's probably not that impressive from a building on a space perspective, but you feel already a different spirit. And I think, it's my personal opinion, you have much less bias when it comes to different cultures. You still see some of the tensions, but maybe when I look at my German passport, I'm biased. Thank you very much. And I would like to hand it over to Varsha, who is not here today, and have a look at their video.
To understand how Mahindra builds strong communities within its diverse ecosystem, it's first important to appreciate the diversity of India as a nation.
India has a population of 1.3 billion, which is equal to the populations of North and South America put together. While South America speaks 450 languages, North America speaks 300, India speaks 1,652 languages. So back in 1960s and 70s, when Mahindra brought its tractors and vehicles to every part of India, that was the kind of diversity it was dealing with. We had people coming from different cultures, backgrounds, geographies, ages, and genders becoming a part of our ecosystem.
Flash forward to today, when we have over 150 businesses in more than 100 countries worldwide.
our ecosystem has become even more diverse. So the question of unifying communities has become even more acute.
How do you bring a sense of community and belonging in such an ever-growing, diverse workplace?
In 2009, we articulated our core philosophy to give a unified purpose across the diverse Mahindra Group. For this, we undertook a massive research exercise, including focus group discussions. But most importantly, we introspected. And we were able to chalk out something that Mahindra stands for. I think something that we have always stood for. RISE.
RISE is our rallying cry to challenge convention, think alternatively, and drive positive change.
RISE is our philosophy.
It's the way we work.
It's who we are.
And what we stand for.
At Mahindra, there are ample opportunities for employees to go beyond their usual work responsibilities and contribute towards society and driving positive change. We call it ESOPs, the Employee Social Options. It is measured by the number of hours contributed by the employees towards driving this positive change. The Mahindra Social Ambassadors Program is a career awareness initiative for students studying in low-income schools. It enables employee volunteers from Mahindra reach out to these students studying in 9th and 10th grade. What's more, we also conduct an identical program for our very own employees' children.
Workplace by Mahindra is a great platform for people to connect because of their familiarity with Facebook. They can form special interest groups, they can discuss the latest news at work just as they would on Facebook. Facebook at Work currently has over 26,000 members from Mahindra, and over the past year we have seen over 3,000 interest groups spring up on this platform. Since our workforce comprises of people from diverse cultures, we also make it a point to celebrate each and every festival with great enthusiasm. On Founders Day, our offices and factories are opened up to every single employee and his family. The atmosphere is electric. The place is filled with children. There's fun, there's laughter, there's food, there's music, contests, and this milestone day is celebrated with great enthusiasm.
Every year, we hold the RISE Award that celebrates people and companies across the Mahindra Group. That's over 150 companies across the world.
One of the unique award categories is the Dare to Fail Award, which is an award that celebrates individuals or teams that had a great idea which failed for whatever reason.
Throughout the year, we also have multiple strategy development challenges for our Mahindra employees, which we call shadow boards. Employees have to form teams and they are given real-life business challenges. They are asked to come up with strategic solutions to solve them. The winning strategy is then presented at an annual conference called the M101, which is attended by some of Mahindra's top global leaders.
We chose a few employees from across the Mahindra Group who are known to be active influencers on social media.
We call them RM advocates. We also designed a special app which would help them share Mahindra information directly to their social networks like events, happenings, news, and much more.
In a short span of 8 months, the M Advocates app has seen amazing traction. Over 200 people have shared Mahindra-related content over 400,000 times, and this content has been viewed over 12 million times.
We often get asked, how does your employee engagement affect business results?
To answer this, we analyzed the data gathered from the Employee Engagement Survey of the Mahindra Group companies.
The findings were not surprising. Employees who were engaged were much more likely to stay and were also much more likely to become advocates of the company. More importantly, companies that had higher employee engagement were statistically much more likely to have better financial returns, profitability, higher customer as a promoter scores, and higher scores on quality audits. Keeping our employees engaged is not just a duty. It's ingrained in our corporate philosophy.
Because we believe the fastest way to enable our communities to rise, we first need to enable our people to rise.
Okay, well, good afternoon. My name is Paul Edwards and I'm the Chief Communication Officer at ANZ Bank based in Melbourne in Australia, as you can probably tell. I'd like to start by thanking you for your support during the Board of Trustees election yesterday. I guess humble is the new black in our profession, so I always feel a bit awkward using the word, but as a relatively new member, it is humbling to have your support, and I hope I can bring a diverse perspective from the Asia Pacific region to Page. And I'm also incredibly pleased to have two of my colleagues from Australia here at the conference. Andrew Hall from Commonwealth Bank, who I think is up that direction, and Jane Anderson from Insurance Australia Group. Now, I've got quite a few slides today, and I hope I can handle them with the same grace under fire as Dave Sampson yesterday. We'll see. First, a little bit about ANZ. We're a top 30 bank globally with around 60,000 people working in 34 countries. Our largest business is in Australia and New Zealand, but we're also a top 4 corporate bank in Asia and also the largest bank in the Pacific. But along with the rest of the banking industry around the world, we're undergoing enormous change. There are huge increases in costs as a result of higher capital requirements and increased regulation, and that's forcing us to focus on greater and greater efficiency. And the biggest cost in our business is people. Technology is also driving profound change. Digital is disrupting our traditional relationship with customers, and AI and robots are changing the nature of work. And changing community expectations are also challenging our licence to operate. Our Chief Executive, Shane Elliott, is driving quite a radical shift in strategy, but he's also leading change from the top. Now, I know that's easy to say, but let me share with you a very short video from Shane's Facebook page to give you a sense of his style. If we could play the video, please, that would be great.
So this morning I was on ABC Radio Hobart taking calls from listeners, and Dee from Lindisfarne here in Hobart called in and mentioned that her local ATM was looking a bit worse for wear and a bit dirty, and asked to have somebody go out and clean it up. So here I am. I'm going to come in and clean it up. Here's the ATM.
There you go. So look, you get the picture, rubber gloves and Windex, not very Wall Street. Now this year, Shane challenged my team to really reimagine the role that communications could play in engaging our employees and building a much stronger sense of community at ANZ. The program we built is called the ANZ Way, and its aim is to build a common understanding around our societal purpose, our strategies, our values, our brand, and the introduction of new ways of working to run our business. And that's really the adoption of Agile, which is a kind of methodology within technology, I guess generally, to run our entire business, which is a huge change. And I think the challenge that he set us perfectly reflects the growing strategic importance of internal communications in all of our companies to help our businesses respond to huge changes and to increase the sense of community that builds engagement and advocacy among our employees. I loved Sebastian Junger's presentation this morning because, like many of you, we face big challenges in building community and even in message cut through with our staff. I thought his idea of tribalism and how we can use that to unite people was fantastic. And I thought Rob Flaherty as well, I don't know whether he's still here, but built on the need for new ideas with his question later. I think not only do we need to be more creative in our roles, we also need to create an environment where our teams are more willing to take risk to be effective communicators in today's environment. The starting point for our program was to build was a 3,500 word letter from Shane to all of our staff about the future of the company, and we're how we're using our purpose to create a bank that people love. Now, I have to say this is a big aspiration. The words bank and love are not usually used in the same sentence, certainly in Australia, but I guess that's true here as well. Now, we produced this letter in hard copy and we delivered it by a simultaneous desktop to all employees, encouraging them to take 15 or 20 minutes out, have a cup of coffee, read the letter and digest it at their leisure. It wasn't a normal letter though. We radically simplified the language that we used in it and used storytelling to make the content much more accessible. We've also created a more informal and fun internal brand to help us communicate. It's very different to the normal corporate look, as you can see. Look, I think interestingly too, we've also adopted an omni-channel approach to let our staff engage with us in the way that they want to, whether that's through their manager or on their desktop, through printed material or more visual communication such as short animations and so on. Or through their mobile, whether they're at work, commuting, or at home. We've also created new channels using large-scale environmental messaging inside of our buildings. In atriums, this building is actually in Melbourne. It's the largest floor plate in the Southern Hemisphere. There's about 7,000 people work in that building. And in lift wells within the building as well. We've also thought around some of our internal technology limitations by using external digital and social to reach our employees. Our podcast series, The ANZ Way, is available on iTunes. It's directly focused on communicating with staff, and each of the first 3 episodes rated in the top 10 business podcasts in Australia and New Zealand. As you saw earlier, we also launched Shane as a Facebook influencer. He posts most days using a mixture of customer interviews, staff photos, or even sharing his Spotify playlist. The aim is to role model authenticity and living out our societal purpose. And we've extended traditional tools like line manager briefings, which really used to be focused on the top 800 or so managers, out to all of our 8,000 people who manage staff. To enable them to communicate the ANZ way at a local level. We've also begun to hold marketplaces, which are really large-scale events to immerse, inform and engage thousands of staff who are going to be affected by the introduction of new ways of working. I'll say too, we're also changing the way that we work in communications to deliver this program. And we're adopting the agile methodology within our team, which has actually been incredibly energising for all of our people. Okay, so we're 3 months into this program. Part of it was built as a pilot to see whether we could justify further investment in 2018, but the results we've achieved so far have been really encouraging. We've seen a shift in the perception of open, honest, two-way communication at ANZ increase from 58% to 70%. An increase in confidence in our culture to enable change from 55% to 68%. So that's a snapshot of how we're building our community at work at ANZ. That's it from me. I'd now like to invite Barbara back to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you, Michael and Brian, and also Varsha from afar. They put a lot of effort into that video, which is great. Now it's all of your turn to spend some time. I'm sure this has sparked some ideas about the special things you're doing in your organizations to build community. So if you could get together on a table with a few, at least 4 other people, and answer the question. You should all have these on your tabletop. What is your company doing to build community at work? You've got 15 minutes. And then if there are some great ideas, we're going to ask for a few examples after. And jot down, it says, read the instructions on here. Jot down any great ideas so we can follow up. Well, I was sitting at a great table, I'll tell you, because that's where our first story is coming from. Deborah, do we have microphone runners, please? Great. Right there, Deborah at BioMarin. Not yet.
When does it get to work? Hello,
Can we have the mic working?
Is it working? Okay,
Yes.
it's working. So I shared with a story. God, you really can't see when you're up here, can you? I think, no, I'm blinded. Okay.
Come over here. You can, there
That's
you go.
much better. Okay, so on August 24th, we had an all-hands meeting. And we bring all of our employees into a theater. And we often will have videos, and we put our PowerPoints up, and it's very fun. And we do a lot of films. We do documentaries about what we do. And BioMarin, just for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we make drugs for rare diseases, mostly kids. And we just got a drug approved called Brineura. It's for a fatal pediatric neurodegenerative disease. Basically, it's like reverse Alzheimer's for toddlers. It is an awful, awful disease, and a lot of children have died from it. Well, not a lot, because there's not that many of them. But we did this film, and we showed the film, but what we also did is, I don't know how many of you have ever had an all-hands meeting where you hand out tissues. We actually we had bags on everybody's seat with tissues and with a red bow tie. And the people in the audience had no idea why they had the red bow ties. We showed the film. It showed lots of families and their role, and this is a genetic disease, so many families will have one or two children who have this disease. Oftentimes they've lost one, and then another one is going to die or has died. So while we got this drug approved, we also recognized that there were a lot of people who we didn't help, and they helped us. I'm gonna get all broken up. So there was a family there who lost one child, and their other child she's not going to be here for much longer. But they were the original family that raised money, gave the money to a researcher at Rutgers University who cloned the gene, who allowed us to eventually make a drug. And they did this knowing that their kids probably wouldn't be helped. We invited them to come to the event, but nobody in the audience knew it. We also invited another family who had lost one of their children to Batten's disease, and the other one was on treatment. So they were also there. And this is a very tight-knit community. They all know each other. So we had all gone out to dinner the night before. They were kind of hidden in the front of the theater. And our CEO gave some remarks, talked about how there were a lot of people we didn't help. There's still a lot more work to do. This is not a cure. And started the film. The film played. It was obviously very moving. And our CEO, his name's JJ, he's French. And just to give you a little background, he's a very funny guy. He kind of jokes around. He's hangs out with Wall Street. He's not someone who gets very emotional. And he had to introduce the families. And we told him what was going to happen. We're like, okay, look, we've got these bow ties. All the employees will be instructed to put the bow ties on during the movie. None of the employees know that the families are in the audience. The families don't know about the bow tie. So we had this moment where JJ gets up on stage, he's introducing the families, recognizing that there's a lot of kids who we lost. And he says, you know, these bow ties were actually directly linked to BioMarin because one of our board members had met the mom of one of the little boys, and he was wearing a red bow tie, and that became symbolic of Noah. And there's a group called Noah's Hope, and that was to the parents, one of the set of parents. So the Van Outens, Tracy and Jen get up, Dana and Fraser get up, and Jen, the mom who lost the son with the bow tie, she gets up and she looks and she's like, wait a minute. She totally got it right away. And she starts crying. And the Gieselmans weren't quite in on this, but as soon as JJ explained it, he said, you know, this is because this is for Noah and all the children we weren't able to help. He said, you know, we're just going to have a moment of silence and just to remember them. And I had written the notes for JJ, and in the notes I said, you know, count to 10, right? So he did it. He was good. And there were a few more lines to say, and JJ got up and he was just broken up, as was everybody who was standing on, you know, the parents and everybody in the theater. And it was just this moment, it was this shared collective moment that I have never experienced in a corporate environment. And it was just very powerful. And on so many levels, for everybody to make that connection with the patients and what we do, and for them to connect with JJ on a level that they've never seen before, that nobody, you know, had probably ever seen before. I mean, his direct reports were all in front of him, and they were all broken up too. But JJ ended by saying, you know, it's patients like you that make us want to be better. And I think that's when he got all choked up, because it's true. And so anyway, that was our moment. Thank you for letting me share it.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Oh my gosh. And the other couple of things that Deborah said was that people in finance kind of came up later and said, oh gosh, I really get what we're doing. I mean, talk about shared experience, going above and beyond, and just having an impactful moment to see how important the work it is that you're doing, and building belief and values, belonging. So does anyone else, it's a hard story to top, but we don't have a lot more time. So two things. One, if you have any other examples, if you want to share them right now, great. If you don't, make a note on the paper so that we can collect these stories and share them with everyone. Anyone else want to share? Or if you have any questions for Paul or Michael or Brian. Questions, comments? Yes, right here. Great.
Michael, it seems, this is Jim O'Rourke from Notre Dame, it seems as though you have a very large number of professional management level employees to hire and retrain all at once. First question, had you anticipated that the number would be as large as it is? Secondly, how are you doing that?
Thank you for the question, Jim. That was actually a challenge that we didn't expect. I mean, we actually hadn't flexed the muscle of recruiting in the past. This was something we had to reinvent. We had to promote the place, and it was relatively easy with the normal design positions and marketing positions, because Steelcase has only a little bit cachet in the design world. But promoting all the other positions and hiring on an EMEA-wide level for positions in Munich, that was a challenge. So we needed help. We were seeking outside help. Started a campaign for the first time in our history in Europe, European-wide, and started at the same time a change management program where the different team leaders were integrated to prepare the interviews and also line up the people that were about to leave the company to pass over to do the knowledge transfer. It was a task that we didn't think we could really do. It was a stretch for this existing community, because you're asking people that are about to leave, that have created for the last 30 years chair mechanisms, to transfer that to someone who's really taking their job. There was a hard work on the middle management, and that's when we've understood going down the path, the middle management is really carrying the weight. It's kind of the sergeant and the corporals in the army that are really doing that. And that was a big learning for us that we've learned. From now on, we need to have our middle management much closer in a communication loop. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions, comments, stories? I'll call on a table where you think of stories. Roger?
It's actually a question for Paul. Thank you. I thought it was great that you showed us some of the data that you collected, and I just wanted to make the point that I think data is really critical. When we did the culture change and community building at Aetna, we did a lot of data, and I just thought maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your very early impressive results and your thoughts about the importance of data.
Yeah, look, I think in a way we've been kind of outgunned by our colleagues in marketing in terms of data and analytics. You know, I think this whole program has seen a complete reskilling of our people, particularly in the internal communications side. We partnered up with a tertiary institute in Melbourne who produces most of the best public relations graduates. And I put all of my team in Melbourne and Sydney through a training program with them, but focused across animation, podcasting, visual communications. So it was a big investment there. But it's kind of clear to me too, we're going to have to invest more in upskilling people around data and analytics. I think kind of our early stuff that we've done with our internal group surveys people has been okay. And we've tried to dig under that more with some professional qualitative research, really to understand a bit more about how the data's, what the data's telling us. But we've got a long way to go in terms of really having a kind of professional data and analytics capability, particularly for internal communications.
Yeah, data for us is interesting. I thought the Mahindra example of Facebook at work was a helpful one. We've been debating what, as we go out and seek all this content to bring people closer together and create that sense of community, we've asked them what their curiosity is. They really don't know a lot about the UAE. They don't understand the story of the country. They don't get what the philosophy is behind Mubadala, why we would even go out and ask them to be part of a larger community. But because we've done that, we've found actually that there is an enormous curiosity and they want to contribute to something. The question is, when you've got something that's that global, how do you showcase it? And how do you take advantage of it? So I think as we look to what the analytics will be and the Facebook at Work interaction, which I think will be our platform ultimately that we'll decide on, you know, I think we'll be greatly satisfied if there's that level of dialogue that shows feedback between us and another entity who may be halfway around the planet, as well as how they start to share content with, and hopefully business ideas and other ways of working together with the other pieces of the Mubadala Group puzzle.
I think, you know, the other thing there, Roger, is that part of a number of those approaches there were piloted, particularly the building environmental graphics. If we're going to roll those out, you know, in 30, you know, buildings in 34 countries and in about 1,300 branches in Australia and New Zealand, I need money to do that. And, you know, the data that we need is to demonstrate an ROI to our Chief Executive Officer to give us money. You know, that's, I think you all know, it's kind of difficult to get extra money for our function at the moment.
Well, we're just about at time. So I am hoping that we've got some notes or at least a contact, and we will gather stories to share with the group in other formats. But thank you all so much, and thank you, Brian, Michael, and Paul.
Thank you.